morning, everyone. I'm Kristen Lord. I'm the acting president of the U.S. Institute of Peace. I'm absolutely delighted to see all of you here today, but most especially the International Women of Courage awardees who are all with us here today. To our distinguished visitors, please accept our congratulations. This is a really high honor that the United States can bestow upon you. You're an inspiration to us all, and the work that you do in law, in medicine, in religion, working with civil society, I mean, really, it raises us all up. It's very compatible also with the mission of the United States Institute of Peace. Our mission is to prevent, mitigate, and resolve violent conflicts by engaging directly in conflict zones and also providing analysis, education, and resources to all those working for peace. In our view, you're part of our community. You're also working for peace. I hope you'll reach out to us if there are ways that we can be helpful to you. We work in many of your countries, and I hope you get the chance to meet many of our experts that are here in the building with us today and to draw on us going forward. We are looking forward to the panel discussion and hearing from you. The panel will be led by USIP's director of our Center on Gender and Peace Building, Dr. Kathleen Keenast. Kathleen's not only a leader on these issues here at USIP, she's really a global leader on these issues, so I know you'll enjoy getting to know her as well. And I now wish to introduce our U.S. Department of State colleague, Stephanie Foster. She's the Senior Policy Advisor in the Office of Global Women's Issues across the street at the Department of State. She is also a distinguished expert in her own right with over 25 years of experience on issues such as policy advocacy, program development, law, and government. Her focus in particular has been on the critical role played by women in the United States and around the world. She's recently served in the U.S. Embassy in Afghanistan, where she worked closely on a daily basis with women and civil society. So Stephanie, thank you for being here. I turn it over to you.
Good morning. Happy to be here and happy to see all of you here. When I think about the International Women of Courage Award, and when I think about the recipients, I think of 4 words: courage, tenacity, conviction, and resilience. These are women who exemplify what the award means in general. This is an award that we give and have given every year for the last 8 years to a group of women who are indeed women of courage, who make a difference every day in their societies, in their communities, and for their countries. The women that you'll hear from today, like the 7 years of women who came before them, are from different walks of life. They're lawyers and judges, doctors, clergy, civil society activists, politicians. And they're from a lot of different parts of the world. But despite those differences, what they really share is that they exemplify women who are making a difference. I want to talk just very briefly about the process that gets them here today, because we often are told, and it's true, that the women are so extraordinary. What happens, just so you know, is that our embassies around the world have the opportunity to nominate candidates. It goes through a very sort of intensive process at the State Department. The Secretary of State approves the final awardees, and we really spend a lot of time looking at every nomination we get and thinking about the phenomenal contributions that all the nominees make. And there are so many of them, and it's so difficult. But this year, as usual, I think we made the right choices. So this award is important to us at the State Department and in the office I work in, the Office of Global Women's Issues, because it gives us the opportunity to highlight these women and their courage, their strength, and their contributions. I heard one of them say last night it's important to them because it helps validate and recognize their work. And we're really thrilled to be able to do that. But I want to say lastly, on a personal note, I think this award is important probably to me and to all of us in this room because it helps inspire us and help us think about doing more ourselves, being better at what we do, and making a difference in a very real way. And so on behalf of the State Department and the Office of Global Women's Issues, I'm really happy to be here and listen to the stories that we're going to hear today from our women of courage. And so with that, I'm going to really have the pleasure of introducing you to a very good friend of mine. Maybe someday she doesn't think I'm such a good friend when I call her up and need something all the time, but Kathleen Pianist, who will be your moderator. So thank you very much.
To you all. I hope you have your headsets because we're going to be delighted by 5 different languages here this morning. I also want to say hello to those of you who are joining us by webcast this morning. We hope that you can read all of the PowerPoints behind us so that you know who's speaking and a little bit more about these remarkable women here today. And I also want to let you know that we will have Twitter, and it is IWOC at USIP. That is IWOC at USIP. Now let me arrange my own headset here. The English channel is number 1, and we will begin.
Sorry, Kathleen, translation is not working, channel 7.
Okay, and on channel 7, we're having a translation. We're not having any kind of, hold on one second, is it on? You have the English? You have to put 7. 7 is not working, it's coming in as English. We'll be working on this momentarily. Thank you very much. Moi, j'habite, let me know. Over the next 80 minutes, we will welcome 7 of the 10 extraordinary individuals who yesterday received their award as a woman of courage. Through 3 different panels, we will have the opportunity to hear their stories and reflect on the fact that every day women around the world are on the front lines, paving the way in their communities and in their countries for peace. We have come here to hear their stories because they teach us. They teach us that we're not alone, that together we inspire one another to stand up for human dignity. Their stories remind us again that most leaders are not born, but instead they emerge through and from tough challenges. And they transform hardship and harsh realities into an expanded imagination in which they put forward something new in the world, something bold to improve the lives of others. This is resilience. Moreover, their stories today help us demystify the human force of resilience and recognize it in the human face of women. So I am very delighted to welcome to our first panel here this morning 2 of our panelists, Roshika Deo of Fiji, as well as Oinon, and I want to make sure it's up there, yes? Okay, great. Oinon Bakhodirova, welcome. We're going to ask each of them just several questions and let them have some time to tell their story, and then we will have about time for 1 or 2 questions from the audience. So thank you. So to begin with, Roshika Deo, You were recognized yesterday in your award for advocacy for political reform in the name of democracy and human rights and a country free of violence against women. Among the many things that you have accomplished in your young life is that you are one of the first candidates in your country to announce your intention to stand in Fiji's 2014 elections. But it didn't begin there, because you started Be the Change political campaign as an inspiring new generation of Fijian women and youth to believe in democracy and the power of civic participation. Can you tell us more? What has motivated you over these years?
Thank you, Kathleen. Hello, everyone. I think there's not one thing that has motivated me. There has been several things, and one of the highlights would be the interaction that we have in the community with young people and women. It's the people of Fiji that actually motivate you and inspire you, and you continue to learn from each other as you continue to do the work that we do in Fiji. Especially right now in Fiji, I'm not sure how many of you are very well versed with Fiji, but it's a small country in the Pacific Island region, and we have been in a dictatorship for the last 8 years. We have a history of political instability, and a lot of focus is always on peace to do with state security, and very less to do with human security, and there's not enough attention given to peace at the community level, at households. And one of the things that we advocate for and talk about in Fiji is that we really cannot have peace, or we cannot have democracy, if women as high as up to 80% in the Pacific region and up to 64% in Fiji continue to experience violence daily in their lives. And if we cannot have peace at home, we cannot have peace in the community, and we cannot have peace as a nation. So these are some of the injustices, the oppression, the discrimination, that pushes us, that makes us continue doing what we are doing, especially with young people, young women. So so these are some of the things. It's all very interweaved and connected as to how it helps motivate us.
We're having a technical difficulty, so I'm going to wait 1 minute and ask you another question, if you don't mind. Can you tell us more about, how over these last years you have found yourself supported or not supported, but who has been the real support in this effort that you have been engaged in?
I think that, I would say, majority of the effort have been women at community level, not women, within institutions, organizations as much as women in the communities. So, and the closest, the circle of, support that you have is from young women and from women. So I think, for me personally, it has been the solidarity that we have in Fiji among the young women and the young people that have had enough of what is happening in Fiji and does not want, another coup or more political instability, and wants to do something about it. So it's that group of people, that, we provide support to each other, and we're acting in solidarity to be able to make a difference.
And how much has social media played in this?
Social media actually played a very big role. It is something that is quite new to the Pacific, but a lot of young people and a lot of other people are getting involved in social media for various reasons, for marketing, for business, and for advocacy. It's cheap, and especially for us in Fiji, because we have a media censorship, so we do not have as much as access to the mainstream media to be able to bring up issues of concern, accountability, transparency. So the social media plays a very big role. We discuss a lot of issues on social media that we cannot discuss Otherwise, in Fiji, a lot of people that are really apprehensive and scared create fake profiles to be able to have this discussion. And especially a lot of young people, because a lot of us have been threatened, intimidated, taken to military barracks, there have been attempts by the police to charge us with frivolous charges to dissuade us from doing the work. So I think that there has been, social media has been one of our, most critical, advocacy tool, and even for Be the Change campaign, because this year 47% of the voting bloc is young people. Social media is proving to be a very effective tool in trying to, create that interest, generate that interest among young people to be active and participate, and, to instill a sense of, civic resistance to what is happening in Fiji and some of the things that we are experiencing.
That's really encouraging to hear, and I appreciate you taking a little bit more time to talk about that. I think we have now we're looking at channel 6 for Russian. Thank you very much, and let's make sure it works. Yes, we have. Thanks very much. Спасибо большое. Nicole, please tell us more about your work. Yesterday you were awarded with the citation for fearlessly advocating the rights of women and labor migrants and fighting to end torture in Tajik detention centers. Your country is in quite a complex neighborhood, with Afghanistan to the south, China to the east, Uzbekistan and Kyrgyzstan nearby. And you live in a very complex neighborhood in Tajikistan. Tell us more about what has been the motivation of your work.
В принципе, когда я была студенткой, была запрещена слушать немецкую волну других зарубежных радиостанций. Мы, группа студентов, старались все-таки слушать и понимали, что, оказывается, Советский Союз не самый хороший вариант для жизни. И вот с той поры начинался моя деятельность по защите права человека, в том числе и женщин. В Таджикистане женщина не считается как личность, она уважается как мать, уважается как женщина, но как личность она не считается. 3 месяца тому назад были президентские выборы, я хотела тоже участвовать в этом выборе, и 4 политические партии меня поддерживали. Даже исламская партия – это уникальный случай в истории исламского мира, чтобы они поддерживали женщину. И власть не пускала мне как женщину. Это говорит о том, что даже есть конституция, где Таджикистан демократическая, но стараются женщина не пускать во власть. Положение женщин очень трудно, особенно трудовых мигрантов.
In Russia, and each year we receive 1,000 corpses from Russia, and 98% out of that 1,000 were women. They cannot find jobs in Tajikistan. They leave for jobs in Russia, but the problems that this creates are immense. Secondly, we have a growing suicide statistic. It grows every year in Tajikistan among women. And the third problem is that women are not even allowed to participate in business life. The state does not allow them to go into business, so they're forced into prostitution. Prostitution grows, and suicide, as I said, as well. And last year, as a human rights defender, even for my ideas to organize a democratic party in Tajikistan, I was imprisoned for treason, and I was alleged to prepare a coup d'etat. So a woman can maybe work in government. Taliban in Afghanistan did not allow women to work. We are allowed to work in Tajikistan, so we do have differences, but there is a certain ceiling of what you could do. You could be a doctor, you could be a teacher, but you cannot try to get into politics. You have to know your place. So in that sense, we're in a deadlock situation in terms of communications. We have a huge pressure from Russia, torture in prison, and just before I left, we had a case where a young person was tortured and he died in prison. We have women's prisons in Tajikistan, and we have about 1,600 women that are imprisoned, and the situation with human rights, unfortunately, becomes worse. And even though Tajikistan is a signatory to many international agreements, including with the United States and international organizations, and we would like the government of the United States to pay attention to the situation with women in Tajikistan. Even though today I think your government is doing a lot, but I think we need a lot more to be done.
Thank you for really bringing us into a world that I think most of us don't know very much about Tajikistan, and also the difficult war that your country navigated just after the collapse of the Soviet Union. And also these statistics are quite dramatic and devastating in terms of women. I wanted to just follow up, if you could tell us a little bit more about the generational gap. Are we talking about quite young women who are heading to Moscow for this labor migration? And what does that do in terms of generational issues?
Well, the women who do go to Russia are primarily very poor women. Usually husbands had already left. In Russia today, about 12,000 Tajik women enter into bigamous marriages with Russian women and leave their families without any support, without any alimony in Tajikistan. And young women, they don't have money to pay for college. Now everything is commercialized. You have to have money to be educated. So a huge amount of young women are deprived of a chance to get education. 50,000 women reported that they are not attending school, even high school. We have early marriage. They're forced into early marriages. And the older generations that still lived under the Soviet rule, they are now hugely represented in the government. The young people are forced to flee Tajikistan because they do not see the light at the end of the tunnel. They try to go to Russia, they try to go to Europe, even to Kyrgyzstan. So I think that the economic life in Tajikistan is getting worse, and after NATO withdraws from Afghanistan, we do not know. We're being scared that Taliban can become dominant in Afghanistan and spill over in Tajikistan. So the situation is very worrisome.
It is worrisome, and I appreciate that you added the context of what you're looking at over the next year or two in terms of the possibility with Afghanistan. And I'm sorry, I'm creating feedback here. I want to take this opportunity to open it up for any one or two questions for the audience, just to engage you. And if you would mind just standing, identifying yourself, your organization, and making your question or comment very brief. We have a microphone, and if you wouldn't mind waiting for the mic so our webcasting audience can hear, and if you wouldn't mind standing. And then if I can also see the second question, so we'll be ready and not spending a lot of time. Okay, thank you very much. All right. Yes. It is on. Could you identify yourself?
No, I'm Irene Moore, and I work in the Office of Global Decisions at the State Department. So I was just curious, when you were running for president, was there much media coverage in Pakistan regarding your candidacy and the reason why you were not actually
Да, поняла. Я должна сказать, что
I have to say that we have won media war with President Rahmon. All independent media supported me, not just in Tajikistan, but in Kyrgyzstan, in Russia, in Europe. There were numerous articles everywhere, and I think on each problem, each question would not be solved without active involvement of media. And it's really interesting that I was talking with home, my family, and I learned that journalists in Tajikistan already put articles about this award. So what I want to say is that we have won in media space, and that has been a great achievement of ours.
Yes, that is a great accomplishment, and thank you for sharing that.
Another
Question from our audience. Right here, please. Thank you so much. Yeah, if you wouldn't mind waiting, and if you could pass that over. And please introduce yourself. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Mindy Reiser. I'm Vice President of Global Peace Services, USA. We're an NGO that works in peace building. I've also worked in your part of the world. I'd like to know what impact some of the developments in Kazakhstan and Kyrgyzstan have with regard to education of women, regarding women in the workplace. You have some opportunities there that may influence developments in Tajikistan, and I wonder what influence some of the active leadership have on your country.
Thank you.
The point is that any case in the former Soviet Union, even in Ukraine, maybe perhaps I'm taking a far example, but it does have an impact on Tajikistan. I would be brief. I think today all our democratic forces in Tajikistan are eagerly awaiting what is going to happen in Ukraine, because our fate will depend on how this problem would be solved. And the fact that Kyrgyz brothers have walked far, I think is great, because they created a system that it is impossible by despotic totalitarian means to dismantle. I think it's great. But in our case in Tajikistan, the authoritarian regime is very strong, and the experience of Kyrgyzstan is extremely interesting. We try to learn from it, we try to act upon it, but the government is very afraid of those experiences and tries to interfere with us as much as they can. Yes, it's great, the strides in education. I visited, for example, Kyrgyzstan, and I am familiar with the case when a bride was stolen. Unfortunately, we don't have that kind of stuff going on, but education requires finances. It's not that our women don't want to go to college. It's because of poverty, because they are not able to afford it. When Islam says that a person has 2 children, they first have to educate, who do you guess, a man or a woman? And Muhammad said a woman, a girl. So for Tajiks, education is an important value in the society, but unfortunately, the opportunities are few.
And I wanted to know if there was a question for Roshika in the audience. Yes, please. Please stand and introduce yourself. Thank you.
I'm happy that I met the women who are getting the awards for the courage, especially the courage for the women in the world. I thank you for all of their efforts to work for other women and other people. My name is Ghazal. I'm just speaking on behalf of Embassy of Afghanistan. My question was for Ms. Bakhodirova from Tajikistan, since she's from our neighbors. But this time that I got the chance to ask a question from Roshika, it's also a great chance. First of all, I congratulate you for your award. I'm so happy that you are young, and it encouraged me as well. At the same time, my question is that a political activist is not an easy job, because it's always the political issues is everybody thinks that it's the owner of the political issues is the man, not the woman. I would like to know, how did you start your efforts, and what was the basic efforts from your friends, especially the girls in such a society, that you get together and you're feeling that other Fijis support you, and you got this position and this, and you're experiencing such a day today. It's important for every young girl in the world, especially for the countries like Afghanistan, so we can learn something very special and some very crucial time, or such a societies that they are not allowed to do a lot of activities. Thank you.
Good question. Thanks so much. Roshika.
Thank you for the question. Like you said, it is not easy at all. And as you heard, women are not even allowed to stand for, presidency in some country. In Fiji, apart from it being a very patriarchal society, we are also highly militarized. And when initially I declared my intention in the media that I wanted to stand for elections, there was a lot of reaction, and most of it was negative. Social media got hold of the article, and people started making memes out of me and circulating it all over social media. There was a lot of racist, homophobic threats. A lot of rape threats came out. So it was really overwhelming in the initial stages. And I think that if I did not have the support of other young women who, went on social media and started tackling it, and also I also there were some people that said, just exit from the social media, don't comment, let it be. I did that for a few days, but it just kept on going bigger and bigger. So it started with one or two memes, and then people started making more memes, taking photos from other places and, putting captions on it, things like, oh, no one wants me, oh, I'm a lesbian bastard. So those kind of things, very homophobic, racist and misogynist kind of comments started coming out. And people telling me to go learn how to cook and have a family, get married, so those things. A strategy that we developed was that we will not we will not make ourselves invisible on that cyber public space, because a lot of the times what happens, and a lot of the women shared, that they feel really intimidated and threatened, so they just exit, and but it doesn't stop, and it keeps on perpetuating. So we formed a few young women, we said, okay, you go into this forum, and we're going to keep on, responding to these comments and, putting them on the spot and challenging their notions. And, and we did that for several days. It was really emotionally exhausting. There was several stages when we said, oh, can we do this? It's going to be really hard. How much more can we, continue, and to what extent? Because, I didn't have a job. There were so many limited resources. So there was, but I think it was just the fact that we supported each other. It was a small group to start off with, but we supported each other, and because we persevered and other people saw, because social media is so huge and these are public forums. So lots of people, even though they're not commenting, but they're reading all these things. So that's how the support started building, because then people started seeing and saying, okay, you know what, they're committed. They're not flattering, and they're remaining, and they're, strong. And so those kind of, sentiments started coming out. So, and then the group kept on getting bigger. So then we held a meeting where we had over 45 young people come, young men and women. to say, no, you need to stand for elections, we need to do this, we will do it. And that's how, then we started developing our own strategies, because this is the first ever national election campaign in Fiji that is totally led, strategized, and managed by young people. And this is a very big thing in a patriarchal society like ours, especially since it's always said, oh, young people are future leaders, or you are the future leader, you are, the leaders of tomorrow. But one of the things that we've claimed, and we've said, no, we are leaders of today. We are here today. Everything that happens, every decision that is made affects us today and tomorrow. So you need to include us, and we will be represented, and we will voice our concerns. So yeah, so that's just some of the things, and maybe afterwards we can discuss more. So
Please.
It's very interesting that in my traditional Tajikistan, I was more supported by men than women. And perhaps my mistake was that I was going on election not as a woman, but as a person. Maybe I alienated some women that way. So Afghanistan, I really wish you stability and wish you a lot of luck in learning from our mistakes.
Thank you very much. I think we've come to the close of this panel today, but you've offered us both a generational perspective from two very different parts of the world where women are taking the lead and who are fighting at great risk to themselves to have a voice. So thank you all, and I hope you'll join me in thanking these two awardees here. That way and bring these. Okay. Great. Thank you, and thank you for orchestrating our shift here. And we'll have the second PowerPoint slide up that recognizes our other two panelists here this morning who are joining us now. We have Beatrice Metwa, who is a human rights lawyer. She is from Zimbabwe, and she was awarded yesterday for fearlessly defending victims of human rights abuses and championing the rule of law in Zimbabwe. And second, we have Judge Iris Yasmin Barrios Aguilar of Guatemala, and we will hear from both of them here over the next few minutes. Beatrice, what a life you live in Zimbabwe, and we welcome you back here to USIP. You were with us about a year and a half ago when you presented your film, and I hope you'll talk about it, as well as a former grantee of USIP. So we feel like you're part of our extended alumni and family. Welcome. It's been said that the moment a woman decides to be unafraid, that she is transformed, and she transforms the world around her. And you seem to be one of those transforming figures. Can you tell us more about your work and what that transformation has been about in your own life?
Thank you very much. I don't know about the transforming bit or
but
being
you can
unafraid.
Take these away from and just,
The work I do, I just do it as my job on a day-to-day basis. I don't think about how dangerous it might be or what might happen, because I think if somebody needs the services of a lawyer, the lawyer should feel free to go and give those services just like any professional. I always use the example of a doctor. If a doctor is called to an accident scene and there's blood and patient that needs attention, my view is that the doctor should simply attend to the patient. So when I'm called as a lawyer, I think primarily of the fact that the person needs my services. The collateral that comes with that, of course, is always that I represent persons who sometimes, are not advocating popular causes. Sometimes they're political activists that may not be popular with those in power. Sometimes they are peace activists or other basically activists advocating for various things that may not be popular with the government. And that is when I kind of get identified with my clients' causes, which I always find completely unacceptable, because if you arrest somebody and the law says they're entitled to have a lawyer, why should the lawyer be harassed for doing their job? It's only when something bad happens to me that I start thinking that, oh, okay, perhaps sometimes this thing can be dangerous. It has been dangerous from time to time. I've had attacks, physical attacks. The first physical attack I had was in 2003, and in 2007 again I was physically assaulted. And in March last year I was arrested and spent 7 days in jail before getting, 8 days actually, before getting bail. And I had to undergo a trial, and thankfully I was acquitted in November last year. I have not really looked at it from the perspective that I ought to have been arrested, because I don't think I did anything illegal. And at the end of the day, I was vindicated. And the view I take is that if really every lawyer did their work and did not look at the reasons why the client has been arrested and whether it is a popular cause or not, because popular is really subjective. If everybody just did their work and all of us were able to represent these people, there would be fewer dangers, because I doubt that the resources to harass every lawyer would be there.
Thank you, and thank you for bringing us into your story a little bit more, and we're going to come back to it in a few minutes. We're going to ask Judge Iris Yasmin Aguilar to talk about your own work, demonstrating that justice is attainable for all of Guatemala's citizens, and recognizing you for your perseverance, courage, and personal conviction. You have done a lot in Guatemala's high-risk court tribunals, and it goes without saying you have a very dangerous job as you deal with high-profile corruption, organized crime, and drug trafficking. Can you give us more of a sense of what your life is like on a day-to-day basis, and some of the challenges you've encountered over these last several years?
Thank you. I would like to thank you for this invitation, for me to be here. I'm really honored to be here. And I would like to start by telling you that in 1996, I started becoming a judge. And I did so through an examination process that allowed me to become a judge. In fact, in 1996, when the peace accord was signed in my country and when there was an open window towards democracy. So I am part of those independent judges who fight to strengthen the rule of law in my country and to achieve judicial autonomy. The law must be applied to everyone, regardless of who they are, without any privileges or favors or any economic, social, or political preference. And we cannot favor any sector of the population. I believe that justice is for all. It must be applied equally for everyone and for all Guatemalan citizens, regardless of their social class that they belong to. Guatemala is a multicultural country, so we need to do justice for all Guatemalans. I continue to think this way, and I think that the judge must be a leader within their own societies so that they can solve the social conflicts that present themselves. And it is not only to resolve the cases concretely, but for there to be change in society so that they can maintain the fabric of society. In 2009, I became the chief judge at the high-risk tribunal, but all my colleagues laugh at me because they say that I was even a part of the high-risk tribunal before I became the chief judge. And that's right. In 2001, I had to prosecute the case of Monsignor Gerardi, and we started with this debate. And when we started the process, there were 2 frag grenades that were thrown at me in my own house. Unfortunately alive. I have been attacked several times, and I am very careful. And last year, before the genocide case started, there were security agents with the national police who started protecting me. I am so happy to be here with you in Washington, to be in the United States, a country where you respect democracy and freedom, and where I can breathe freely. In my country, in order to do justice, it's very challenging. It's possibly not the same as in other countries where there is freedom. And maybe we could do it in a different way, and maybe you think that I'm exaggerating. But in Guatemala, every single day, we are risking our own lives. And we risk our lives for something that's better for the citizens so that they can attain justice and fairness. In Guatemala, we see crime cases such as conspiracy, murders, genocide, and different cases that pertain to transitional justice. For example, last year, the genocide case. We see cases such as drug trafficking cases, but also we have had to prosecute different cases from previous times where there were massacres, where they pretty much were horrible for our society, where they were bloodbaths. And now we're trying to attain relief for the victims, to do justice, because we are judges and we are doing our duty with the resolutions of the Inter-American Court of Justice. We are judges at a national level, but we also abide by the different resolutions, treaties on human rights, and our sentences must also be applied everywhere. We know that our job is very difficult, but we are doing this for the rest of Latin America. And you were asking me what my day-to-day is like. Well, I go to work in an armored car, I go back home in an armored car, and since it's so expensive, the gas is so expensive, I can only use it twice a day. So then after that, I just ride in a patrol car. So I am a person who's intelligent. I have my own personal conviction. I believe in justice. But because my country is very violent, I have to surround myself with people who have rifles so that they can protect me.
I'm going to open this panel up to the audience because I know there's a lot of questions right away. You both live in very difficult situations. You're public figures, and you take great personal and professional risk to do the service that you do. And I have a question right here, if you could introduce. And could I see where the second question will come from so we're ready? Right here. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. My name is Fariba Parsa, looking at research at George Mason University. I'm also Iranian. With our Iranian, we are fighting, like our women, for our rights. My question is to Ms. Mitava from Sipampe.
Fariba, just move just a little bit.
Can you tell us a little about how did you encourage women to cooperate with you? You know, many people, women maybe really want to do something, but what was your strategies?
And the question is for both of them?
Yes, but it's mostly to Ms. Mitawa. Thank you.
I had understood initially that the question was addressed for Beatriz, so I would like for you to repeat it again more specifically so that I can answer it.
I'm sorry, maybe I misunderstood. Was it for Beatrice?
Yes.
I'm sorry.
Okay. Thank you. Basically, I wouldn't say there was a strategy because I didn't sit down and plot. I mean, when a job has to be done, a job has to be done. I guess my strategy was simply to do the job regardless of the consequences. And if you keep at it, despite whatever consequence might be there, and you are determined not to be stopped, that's the only way really they can see that you will continue doing it. I don't particularly plan how to do things or how to get out of the way, because the only way you can do the job is to just face it head on. And fortunately, when we started the job, when I started doing this kind of work, in around 96, we then started a grouping of other lawyers, Zimbabwe Lawyers for Human Rights. And so there was kind of a support system in that I had colleagues who generally, believed in what we were all doing. Unfortunately, a lot of them either went into politics or left the country. Although the organization is there and is very strong, the people are getting younger and younger. We have lots of them coming in because people think it's kind of glamorous until they are actually inside and they can see that there isn't as much money. They think that if you get an award like this, you go back home with a bag full of US dollars. And when they realize that that doesn't happen, most of them exit. But we have enough coming in, so we almost always have people coming in. The fact that they don't stay has not really affected me because I know that there's younger people who come in, who get trained. The fact that they have had a bit of access to human rights training and have done a bit of human rights work for me always is an advantage in that at some stage, maybe when the rule of law is fully restored, they'll use the little knowledge that they would have gained. Thank you.
Thank you. Would you like to respond as well?
Basically, well, generally, when we work and we find youth and young groups, we find that people get organized so that they defend human rights. And now I have had the opportunity to share with extraordinary women who are part of this group who fight for human rights. But I have always said that, on the other hand, amongst the public servants, there should be an opening. We have to be transmitters and receivers. So for judicial offices, we must have people who can guarantee those human rights so that we can follow the human rights, we can follow the law, we can follow the treaties and the different projects. Society needs autonomous judges so that they can defend any citizens and guarantee their own rights. In Guatemala, this is a reality. However, we are very concerned that at one point in time, there will be some sectors or groups that won't participate in regards to human rights and who want to attack us and go back to the past. A few years ago, we signed peace accords, and in these peace accords, we decided that the judicial power must be independent. So it's a right for the citizens, and it's a way to guarantee that the judges are not interested in the matter. In regard to the risk that we face, well, what can I say? When you are in a position like mine, we are very aware that we must face problems and challenges. So we're not going to run away. We face them head front, and we have to make decisions at that point in time.
Thank you. We're going to move to the second question.
I'm Shelby Quast with Equality Now. And my question, again, sorry, is probably for both of you regarding the role of the judiciary as well as the role of lawyers in addressing often harmful social norms For example, those regarding adolescent girls. And while the laws might be on the books, oftentimes in practice, things happen that are quite different, especially with regard to adolescent girls and sexuality and rape and FGM and lots of different things that address the life of a girl. And I'm curious if you're finding that you have a role in addressing those social norms.
Would you like to begin?
In our country, we are fortunate. We have special courts to see these kind of cases. We have courts that listen to the rights of boys and girls, and there is a special treatment. We also have femicide courts that hear all the rape cases, human trafficking cases, and we have had great results. I cannot say that the rate of violence has decreased amongst the youth and childhood, but we have better control and better treatment towards them. We also offer psychological services, and we try to offer them a dignified relief.
Beatrice.
I mean, like most developing countries, when the going gets tough, the female child is almost always the loser. Most of you will be aware that Zimbabwe had a very high literacy rate, but when we started facing our economic problems, of course, more and more girls get sacrificed from going to school. And when resources are low, it's always the girl child that will experience, deficiencies in accessing basic services like education, health, etc. And it's a very difficult thing because it requires political will. Zimbabwe, unfortunately, is in a position where we actually have a lot of women in power. We have a ministry responsible for women and gender. But if you ask me what they do, I absolutely have no clue because they are completely invisible. We have a lot of women politicians, but because of the patriarchal nature of our society, most of those women are in those positions because the men gave them the positions. So they feel their allegiance is not really to other women or gender issues, but to the men, and they become completely invisible on all those things that would empower women. Zimbabwe has the highest number of female judges in the SADC region, but I hardly ever get any gender-sensitive decisions from the female judges. Instead, actually, you get better judgments from the men, male judges. And again, it is because the women invariably get to those positions because they are subservient, they are not seen as threats, and they generally go with what they think those who appointed them to the bench want. And that's the biggest problem we have. We do, at Lawyers for Human Rights, have gender issues, HIV issues, but unfortunately, I mean, it's more a resource issue really than an advocacy issue, because everyone knows what the problem is, but if the resources are not there, there's very, very little that can be done.
Thank you, Beatrice, for really walking us through the complexity sometimes of our numbers. And often we put quotas up as ways to make the field more even, and we have to be very careful about our quotas because they don't always represent equality, as you've pointed out. We have time for one more question. Please.
Thank you very much for being here, and congratulations to all the women who have won this prestigious award. I'd like to ask a question to Judge Barrios.
Would you mind introducing
I'm sorry, I'm Ginny Bouvier. I'm here with the U.S. Institute of Peace. I'd like to ask a question of Judge Barrios. What was it like to prosecute a former head of state? do you think that your being a woman helped or hurt your ability to render a judgment that would be accepted by Rios Montt himself and by the broader Guatemalan public?
El público guatemalteco.
Bueno, realmente fue como
Well,
cualquier otro
it
debate.
was really just
Siempre
like
hemos
any
dicho
other
que
case.
todos los
We have
casos son
always said that all
importantes.
cases are equally
Pequeño o
important,
grande, y sea
even
quien-
if they
sea
are
quien sea
small
quien se
or
juzgue,
big.
se le tiene que dar
Whoever
la
is
misma
being
atención
prosecuted, we
y se
must
tiene
pay
que
the same
atender en
attention to
forma
the case,
eficiente.
and we
La
must do it
justicia es para
efficiently.
todos.
Justice
Entonces,
is
desde ese
for
ángulo,
all.
no
So
podría
from this
decir
point
de
of
que fue
view,
algo
I could say that it
especial.
was,
No,
yes,
simplemente el
special.
cumplimiento de
No,
un
it
deber.
was just doing my duty.
El resultado de la
And the
resolución
result of
pues
our
fundamentada en los medios de
decision
prueba,
was
en
fundamented
dictámenes, en
by
peritajes,
evidence,
en
by
documentos.
experts, by
Existió una prueba de
documentation.
alta
We
calidad,
had great
peritos con
evidence, high quality
capacitación nacional e
evidence,
internacional,
experts who were
y
known at a
los
national
testigos
and
que
an
nos
international
narraron
level,
los hechos,
and the
tal
witnesses
y
who
como
told their
ocurrieron.
stories
De tal
as they
forma que
occurred.
nosotros no tuvimos
So we didn't
ninguna
have
duda al momento
any
de tomar
doubt
la decisión,
whatsoever when the time
porque
came
existían
to make the
suficientes pruebas
decision,
y de
because
gran
there was a
calidad.
lot of high
Escuchamos a
quality
más de 100
evidence.
testigos
We
entre
heard
mujeres y
over
hombres
100
que nos
witnesses
indicaron
who
cómo
told
habían
us
sido objeto de
how they had
violaciones a los
been
derechos humanos,
subjected
cómo habían
to
quemado sus
violations of
viviendas,
human rights,
sus
how their
siembras, cómo
homes had
habían
been burned,
torturado a las
how
mujeres.
they
Las
had
mujeres
destroyed their
chilenas fueron muy
crops, how
valientes,
the
rompieron
women
el
were
silencio
tortured.
y
The
dieron a
women were
conocer
incredibly
cómo habían sido objeto por
courageous.
parte
They broke
de
their
los
silence and they
soldados
told the
de
story
múltiples
as to how
violaciones.
they had been raped
Quiero
multiple
compartirles, si ustedes
times.
me
And I
permiten,
would like
algo que
to add
siempre
something, if you
pues
allow
es
me,
muy doloroso, pero es
because it's
parte
something
de lo que
painful
nosotros
and it's
escuchamos
part
en
of
ese
what
momento en el
we
tribunal.
listened at the
Una
time
señora
in court.
tenía
There
a
was a
un bebé
woman who had
recién nacido,
a
tenía unos días
newborn
de nacido.
baby. The
Y en
baby had
ese
just been
momento,
born,
cuando llegan a
and at
atacar
the
su
time when they
comunidad,
came to
salen
attack their
huyendo.
community, they
En la
fled
noche,
at
la
night.
señora,
The
con mucha
woman,
inocencia,
who was
le
very
pone
naive,
un
covered
pañal
the baby
en la
with
boca al
a
bebé
diaper
para
on
que
top
no
of the
llore y
mouth
evitar
so
que a
that the
las
baby
personas
wouldn't
que
cry
persiguen
and
nos
so
puedan delatar
that
el
they
llanto
would
del bebé.
not be found by the
Pasado un
baby's
tiempo, no sé
cry.
cuántos
I
minutos,
don't know how many
si
minutes
media hora o
later,
más,
I
no lo
don't know if
sé,
it was half an hour, I
pero
really
al
don't know,
quitarle
but when
al
she
bebé la
removed
manta,
the
había
cover,
fallecido.
the baby had passed away.
La señora
So the
sacrificó a
woman
su bebé
sacrificed her
en aras de
own
salvar a la
baby
comunidad.
in order to save her
Cuando
entire
la señora
community.
habló
When
frente
the
a
woman
nosotros,
spoke in
rompió
front
en
of us,
llanto.
she
¿Pueden
started
imaginarse
crying.
ustedes
Can you
cuánto
imagine
dolor
how much
existiría en el
pain
corazón,
she
en la
had
mente
in
de esa
her own
mujer
heart,
que guardó
in her
durante
own
30
mind?
años eso
This
que le
woman
ocurrió?
had stored this
Y así
story for
escuchamos varios
30
testimonios
years,
de niños
and
que
we heard
sufrieron,
similar
que salieron huyendo a la
testimonies.
montaña,
People who
otros que
had
fueron
suffered, people
capturados
who
por
had
el
fled to
ejército
the
y
mountains,
fueron
people who had
llevados a
been
comunidades
captured by
diferentes,
the
incluso a
army,
la
and they
ciudad,
were
donde
taken
no
to
les
separate
permitieron hablar su
communities.
idioma,
In fact,
su
communities
lengua
where
materna,
they
donde
were
no
not
podían
allowed to speak their
comunicarse.
own language, where they
Niños
could
que
not
fueron
communicate with others.
completamente
Children
llevados a otro
who were
lugar,
taken
trasladados, y
somewhere
algunos,
else,
por suerte, a
and
los
some,
20, 30
luckily,
años, han podido
20 or
reunirse
30
con sus
years later, they
familiares.
have
Yo
actually
me
found their
pregunto,
own
¿tiene un ser
families. And
humano
so I ask
derecho a
myself,
mandar a
do
matar
human
a
beings
otras
have the
personas por
right
el
to
color de la
kill
piel,
others just
por tener
because
una
of
cultura
their skin
diferente,
color, just
por
because
pertenecer a
of
una
their
etnia,
different
por
culture,
vivir
or
en
because
condiciones
they
de
belong
extrema
to a
pobreza?
different ethnic group, or
No,
just because they are
nadie
poor?
tiene
No,
derecho.
nobody has
¿Tiene un
that
ser
right.
humano derecho a
Does a
cambiar la
human
vida
being
de los
have the right
demás?
to change the life of others?
Son interrogantes, y
These are
todo eso lo
questions,
pudimos ver en
and
el
we were
juicio de
able to see all
genocidio.
these in this genocide
Ahora me
trial.
preguntaban
Now,
ustedes
you
por mi
were asking
condición de
me
ser mujer.
about my own
Pues me
condition
siento
as
muy
a
orgullosa
woman.
de ser mujer,
I am very
de
proud
poder
of
colaborar
being
con la
a
justicia
woman.
de
I
mi
can
país,
cooperate
de
with the
devolver la
justice system
credibilidad
in
en
my
el sistema de
country. I
justicia
can try
y
to get
trasladar
the credit
esa
back into the justice
sensibilidad que todas
system.
las mujeres
And I
llevamos
have this
dentro y
sensibility that
poderlas
all
hacer
women have
efectivas en
inside,
casos
and that
concretos.
I can use it in more
Muchas
concrete
personas pueden
cases.
promover
Many people people can fight for human rights. We can do investigations, but if we don't have judges who are committed to justice and to the justice system, then we won't go anywhere. I believe that on several instances I was even criticized because I was a woman. I was criticized by my hair, by the clothes that I wear, by many things. And at one point in time, I tried to change the focus and to move from the attention of the witnesses, and they were trying to focus on me to discredit the decision that was made. But my colleagues and I, because there's 3 judges, I am not taking all the credit. There were 3 judges who decided on this case, and Dr. Patricia Bustamante and Mr. Pablo Chilpas. They were people, judges with integrity. They were honest. And even though I was presiding, maybe if the man had presided, maybe he wouldn't have been as criticized as I was. In Guatemala, there is still a lot of male chauvinism. However, women are winning the different spaces. Thank you again for the opportunity.
Thank you both for this very illuminating, and you have one more thing. Yes.
Before I leave, I would like to pay homage, a special homage to Dr. Cesar Barrientos. You might be wondering who he is. Unfortunately, he tragically died on Sunday in Guatemala. Dr. Cesar Barrientos was a person who pushed for justice reform in my country. He participated in the creation of the Criminal Procedural Code in Guatemala, and this was the code that allowed us to see genocide cases, cases that saw forced disappearances, and cases that we have been able to prosecute. He was a man with integrity. He fought for the justice of his country. And unfortunately, on Sunday, he passed away in a very tragic way. So I would like to use this space to honor him, even at a distance. I just found out today. I am dressed with red. I should be wearing a darker color. I should be wearing black. My country is suffering. They are grieving. A leader of justice and democracy has died, and I ask for acknowledgement for him and a minute of silence, please. Thank you.
Gracias.
Thank you.
I'm going to ask our next panelist to join. Thank you.
For that is channel 5, that's what you said before. Thank you. Channel 5. It's 5, yes? And now it will switch back. This is English. If I speak in Dari, I will put this one.
You can just hit, do I have to turn this off? You just go back and forth with these 2 buttons.
Which one is Dari?
Does everyone have?
This is Dari.
It's just the bottom one. Right. We don't have Dari on our system, so I'm using Japanese.
Wonderful.
It's
Thank
fine.
you very much.
Dari is
And
above.
this is our
If she
final
speaks
panel,
into,
today.
and if I translate her into English, should
I am going to turn mine down so there. Great. I want to welcome our 3 panelists to wrap up our remarkable session already.
صدای من میشنوین
And
خانم؟
look forward to your comments here. Hold on one second. We'll make sure we have Fatimata with us. Yes?
خانم نسرین صدای من رو میشنوین؟
We need.
نسرین جان صدای من.
Which number is French? Channel 2? 2?
چینل 5 نسرین جان فارسی است.
Thank you for your patience.
چینل 5.
We now welcome Bishop Rusidun Godsir Izday of Georgia, Miss Fatimata Touré of Mali,
Sajnál pányi forszíztek. Nasrin John Mishnevin Sadai
Oinon of Afghanistan. Thank you for joining us here this afternoon now to talk about your remarkable journeys here today. And I'd like to begin, Bishop, with your award of courage, which states for bravely advocating on behalf of tolerance, opportunity, and equality for all of your fellow citizens. What are the challenges you face in your role as a woman working in a predominantly male religious field and a religious minority operating in a society dominated by one faith? This sounds like a recipe for lots of challenges.
This one? Wow. It's hard to speak about the recipes. Probably one of the biggest challenge when you are a woman in a field, a predominantly male field, it's when you are not allowed to make mistakes. I love the American approach of education when mistake is considered as the most valuable way of having of learning and of having your experience. Because when you make mistakes, you learn much more than you can learn when you are doing everything perfectly. But when you are a woman, or when you are a minority in majority, then you don't have that luxury of opportunity to make mistakes, because every time you make a mistake, it means that that's it. That women are not supposed to be there. It's like driving in Tbilisi in Georgia. Women are somehow considered to be the bad drivers, because every time woman drives badly, they say that, that's because she's a woman. But every time the man drives badly, it says that that particular person is not a good driver. So every time you make a mistake, it's not your mistake. It's assigned to all the women who are trying to do something to break down the barriers, to break down the stereotypes.
Tell us more about those barriers that you have been trying to break down in your country of Georgia.
I'm going to very quickly move this because I'm afraid it's making lots of sounds, if you don't mind. See if that works better. Okay. When I listened to the stories of these incredible women who have been awarded, I kind of lost the opportunity to complain at all, because I don't really live in that life-threatening environment, or I don't kind of risk so much what they risk in everyday lives. I don't drive the brown, special kites, my ordinary little car, but the barriers are that in Georgia, when you come to Georgia, we very much like to show how good we are, how tolerant we are, how much we treat women, and how we respect women. And you will find that true on the first day, on the second day, if you stay for 1 week. But it's enough to stay there more than 1 week, a month, a year, then in everyday life you can understand that it's not really true. It's women are good if they are staying in the kitchen, if you are good mothers, and if you have enough children that society would accept her motherhood, and if she, of course, would have at least one son, so that the family would be proud of her being a good mother. But as soon as you try to step out of kitchen, as soon as you try to step out of the boundaries that the culture has built around you, then there is this danger.
Can you talk about your role as a bishop in a minority faith in a country like Georgia?
Well, it's really absolutely unusual thing what is happening in my church. Georgia is very much masculine culture, and Georgian society is predominantly Christian Orthodox society. And I think my church was very, very bold to dare to say that we believe in equality and we're going to ordain women, just we are ordaining men. So if a woman would find a calling as the man would find calling to be a minister in the church, we're going to ordain it. Because as soon as we had women pastors, women bishop, then the minority Baptist church, which is my church in Georgia, became even more sort of blacklisted. So it was really a brave decision for my church to dare to start to break this ice and wow.
That's great. We're going to come back. We're going to go through and hear each of your stories a little bit, and then we're going to ask some more questions. Fatimata, you have been on a long journey, and yesterday you were recognized for your unwavering courage and tireless work to defend women's rights against forced marriage and gender-based violence in Gao during the occupation in northern Mali. The issue of gender-based and sexual-based violence has become at the forefront of the international community's concern about this tactic used in warfare, this tactic used in violence, as well as telling a little bit more about your own story. Can you help us understand a little bit more about how, as an international community, we can bring better awareness to this type of violence?
Thank you very much. Indeed, it pertains to the international community.
Coming through on Channel 1. We do? Is it working?
Is it working? 1, 2, 1, 2.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Please.
As I was saying, this is a role incumbent upon the international community to work to banish war with this type of violence, this atrocious violence, especially where women and children are concerned. We ask ourselves the question, indeed, what have these women and children done to deserve each time war breaks out? We know that the war is planified, it's been pondered and led by men. So why should women pay this heavy tribute? This is the question we ask ourselves. Indeed, the international community is against violence. In our case, when you've seen gang rapes, kidnapping, sequestration, individual rapes or collective rape, and when we've alerted the international community, we felt very quickly that these atrocities diminished, the tension decreased. At the same time, we wonder why. The responses that we've contributed as women, as members of this community that has undergone these atrocities, is to implement rapidly counseling, psychological care, because these raped women were completely traumatized. You can't even watched the images in certain cases, so we've provided these appropriate response, and thanks to the money from the international community, because if it was our government that was up to it, the government fled our part of the country, and these poor populations were left to their own devices, to their own plight. But the idea now is not only that they need resources for these responses, but we also need far more coercive measures. That's what we need from the international community. We know that there are laws, there are codes, regulations that govern the world, that protect women and children in case of war. There's 1325, there's 1888. But where are these laws, where are these codes when the war breaks out? What happens to the laws? What goes on? And what we've seen, we haven't yet seen an executioner that has been tried. The executioners have not been tried. We've seen there's an international warrant against an executioner, and the warrant was lifted. And we learned backstage that is the pressure from a certain part of the international community, from one part of the international community. So we wonder, we feel that we are marginalized, we're the forgotten ones. We get raped, we get beaten up, and we do not even have the right to counter this via justice. There's this prejudice. This is a very serious issue for us. Thank you very much.
Thank you for beginning this discussion, which I think needs much more conversation as we move forward here. Our third panelist, Dr. Nasreen. You received the award yesterday for your tireless efforts to promote women's health, provide maternal health services in Afghanistan. And I think of one of the images presented yesterday was of the fact that oftentimes you are caring for 20 to 30 patients in the same room, some of them sharing rooms together, and maintaining full sense of what's happening and providing both medical and spiritual, psychological support. Tell us more about your work and how you are doing these great tasks.
Thank you. First of all, greeting to all of honorable audience in auditorium, and thank you for your question. Every time I told that my people are persuade me to do that for my people. I never be live without my people. They are like oxygen for me. They are like energy for me. When I was child, always I thought about this issue too. How can I serve for the Afghan women or the poor people, which is they are very deprived and they need our support. So I took decision to I will become a doctor, a gynecologist and obstetrician. Fortunately, I became as a doctor of gynecology and obstetrician. And when I became a doctor, the domestic war was started in Afghanistan. In 1992, when I was a doctor in Malolai Hospital, which is right now, I am director of that hospital, and also I was born there. That's the first maternity in Afghanistan. The rockets were coming a lot. One of the rockets were coming in back of our operation theater. I was on duty. My anesthesiologist was injured. And I had a patient with a rupture of uterus with a huge bleeding, with a shock condition, without blood bank. I thought about this issue to what can I do right now. So first, I must be survive that patient. And I was donate my own blood to my patient because we are in the same blood group. And after the renovation, I was operated, ladies. Fortunately, she was survived. Until now, she is coming in my house and appreciate from me. This is a big hopeful point and persuading point for me to always, I must be served for my people. Inside in Malolay Hospital, this is the first maternity in Afghanistan. It has more than 65 years old. And all of the Afghan people knows very well the name of Malolay Hospital. This is a real woman empowerment collective in Afghanistan because they are literate, they are professional. 95% of our staff are female. And this is really a proud of Afghan people. Really, we have a huge number of patients inside in our hospital every day. 100 or 120 delivery per day and more than 30 emergency operation or cesarean section we will have. But never be stopped and never become boring because I'm enjoying for serving of my people. Right now we have inside in Malolay Hospital an obstetric fistula award, which is we accepted a lot of very poor or marginalized patients, which is they are coming from very rural area and they got it that disability during the obstructed labor because of the low access to the rural area for health facility. Fortunately, we have a good facility there, and I'm one of the obstetric fistula surgeon too. I was learned that surgery in Bangladesh. And in addition of my management part, which is I'm director of Malolay Hospital, I want to be so active in my favorite field, which is gynecology and obstetric. Every time I'm coming to the night duty, I'm doing a very complicated surgery with my staff, and also every other day or twice a week, I will do surgery in obstetric fistula ward, which is so complicated surgery. And really, we have a lot of patients during the night, which is you mentioned. And on every bed, we will put 2 or 3 patients, but never be rejected them to we don't have space or we don't have ability to accept that. And when the patient leave from the hospital, we have a leave paper for them, and we ask from them their certification from the hospital. Really, they are satisfied from the hospital because of the hospitality of us. Really, I'm proud on my people. They are persuade me to work more and more. Thank you.
I'm going to open it up right away to the audience, and I would love to have a question for each of our panelists here this afternoon. Please, right here, Megan.
Hi, I'm so grateful to be here today, and I thank all of you wonderful women for what you have contributed. And my name is Frances Canode, and I'm not from any fancy organization I'm from the general public, USA, and that makes me even prouder to be here because I know I'm probably in the minority that are here today, and because I think we take it so much for granted what we do have in this country that we don't know what's going on in a lot of different countries. And I'm fortunate, my daughter works at United States Institute of Peace, and so I'm fortunate to find out this information, and she told me about this wonderful event today. And the question I have is, even though we have so much media and different access to information, but a lot of times people don't take an interest. And I know a lot of the women, I go on Facebook and they don't talk about these important issues that are going on around the world. So my question is to anyone or all of you, do your women, the everyday women, do they take an interest and do they become as active as all of you are? Or do most of them sit back and just let ladies like you lead the way, and hopefully things will get better? Or do they really take an interest in what is going on in their country?
Thank you for
so
that
much.
great question. And please.
Thank you so much. Every time from Afghanistan, we have a very sad story regarding of the women and violence against women. I want to tell in the other side of story, Afghan women promotion. Fortunately, we have a lot of promotion from 12 years till now regarding of women issue. And really they are very active and they are very keen to have participation for development of our own country with their brothers, which is men. Right now we have 3 ministers in cabinet from women. We have more than 65 representative of people in parliament from women. We have 3 governor in the government of Afghanistan, and the civil society, NGOs, many organizations right now is day by day will develop, and they are woke up from sleep. They are become strong day by day. And one of the more important point, which is very hopeful for us, is the increasing of literacy rate amongst Afghan women and girls. Right now, most of the girls, especially in the center of provinces, but less in the rural area, they will go to the school. And I'm from one of the village. It is located 20 kilometers from the town. I asked from my people village to how percentage of girl will going to the school right now. They told me 85%. 85%. And when the community will become literate, I believe war, violence, poverty, all of them will be day by day reduced.
Thank you. I'm going to turn again to our audience. Do you have a question?
I just wanted to add something to what my sister from Afghanistan said. Women in Mali, in any case, are fighters. Perhaps they'll have the chance, the opportunity, and I think that some of them will have an opportunity to deserve this international award. You know, when we had war at home, the men panicked. They fled, not the women. They were fleeing to go where? There were children, they were dragging them in their wake. They were the old mothers and the old grandfathers and their brothers and sisters. So where could they go? So they left on location. They fought. How did they fight? Indeed, when war broke out, during the whole occupation, the northern part of Mali was completely isolated, broken off from the rest of the country. We had barely any water, we had no electricity, no food. So they were fighting to find all this. They were hosting the children from other villages, other parts, to support them, to find food for them, organize these children so they could gain access to a minimal amount of education that was still there. They were the ones who protested. They faced the aggressor, saying, "We are Malian women and we will remain Malian women," they said. And we even they shot on the crowd where these women were present. So we are fighters. There are a lot of fighters in northern Mali, and we fight on a regular basis for our own emergence. So we're fighting to get through. That is what I wanted to add.
Thank you for sharing that and for reinvigorating what we know we must do on a daily basis. Bishop?
I'll just add a little thing. I do believe in education. And of course, when girls are properly educated, a lot of doors are open before them. And I believe also in prosperity, and when the women have income, when they have their own money, that's also independence for them, and that's also empowerment for them. But probably these two things are not the magical things that automatically will bring the empowerment of women. From my perspective, from Georgian experience, in the university, 70% of the students are girls. For instance, in the 90s, after the collapse of the Soviet Union, when everything broke down, when we had no electricity, no gas, no food, nothing at all, no jobs, the women took over all the responsibility for the family, for income, for everything. But unfortunately, neither the education nor just having the income. For instance, a lot of women are working abroad. A lot of Georgian women are here in America, working here to send the money back home. But still, they cannot make decisions how this money can be spent for the family. So this automatically, this does not bring the power for women. It has to be a lot of things together. So culture has to be changed. So without this change, then only education. It would be just for women, for girls to have a good diploma to get married, and that's all. And that will be the end of their career. And that's what I am facing. My dear friends who were at the university with me, after they got married, they are sitting with their children. Of course, it's a wonderful gift to have children, but their diplomas are on the shelf next to the fancy things. So the whole interest is to change the culture, to change the attitude of people, and this requires different things, and international support is, I think, it's crucial in this case.
Thank you very much for your comments, and I'm being told that we are at the end of our time. You can see that we could spend all day with each one of you and learn from your great courage and your remarkable resilience. And I want to congratulate you all and thank each of the panelists here today who were able to share their stories and to help us understand more about the journeys that you have been on and will continue to do moving forward and make such a difference in our world today. I would like to ask our colleague, Stephanie, to bring us to an official close and to thank all of you in the audience for your great questions. Stephanie.
I'd first, of course, love to thank USIP for hosting us here today, for Kathleen, Steve Steiner, Nicoletta, and all the phenomenal work they did. I'd like to ask everyone to just join me again in really saluting the courage, tenacity, and resilience of these women. You join, really, the women who've come before you, and there will be many women after you, but you are really, indeed, a special group, and you have inspired all of us. So again, let's say thank you, and thanks for coming.